If you told me 5 years ago that the woman I built a life with would turn into the person who'd lie under oath just to keep our kids from me, I'd have laughed in your face. Not because I thought she was perfect, she wasn't, but because I genuinely didn't think she had that kind of darkness in her. I do now. We were living in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Not a huge town, but big enough to hide secrets if you knew how. My wife, Caroline, had always been the kind of woman who turned heads at the grocery store. Confident, sharp-dressed, always 2 steps ahead in a conversation. I fell in love with her drive. I should have paid more attention to the way that drive didn't always care who got hurt along the way. We'd been married for almost 11 years. 2 kids, Ellie and Jonah. They were my world, still are. I worked long hours at a logistics firm, middle management stuff. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave the kids stability. Caroline worked part-time at a boutique when she felt like it, but mostly stayed home. Said she wanted to focus on raising the kids, keeping the house in order. I respected that. But a few months before everything blew up, something shifted. She stopped waiting up for me when I got home late. Started dressing up more to grab coffee with friends. New passwords on her phone. A sudden obsession with fitness classes she never used to care about. I chalked it up to mid-30s self-care. God, I was naive. Then one night, I came home early, system outage at work. Walked into a quiet house, lights off, kids at their grandparents'. Caroline wasn't supposed to be gone, but her car was in the driveway. She didn't hear me come in. She was upstairs. I didn't have to be a genius to figure out what was going on when I heard 2 voices through our bedroom door. Low, urgent, definitely not innocent. And I swear to God, my whole body just shut down. My hands went numb, and I just stood there like a statue, listening to my marriage come apart through a damn door. That's when it really started. The unraveling. I didn't kick the door open. I didn't scream. That might surprise some folks, but when betrayal hits you like a freight train, you don't always explode. Sometimes you just disassociate. I turned around, walked downstairs, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at a coffee mug like it held answers. Eventually, Caroline came down the stairs, looking flustered, hair messy, cheeks red. She tried to act casual, like she'd just finished folding laundry or something. That insulted me more than the cheating. Honestly, the way she played dumb. I asked her where she'd been and who the guy was. Her response? Cold, almost annoyed. She said it wasn't a big deal. Claimed it had been going on for a few months and that she didn't feel alive in our marriage anymore. Said I was too predictable, too responsible, whatever that means. The kicker? She said I should have seen it coming. I wanted to yell. I wanted to punch something. But instead, I just stood up, went to the bedroom, grabbed an overnight bag, and left. Didn't even look back. That night, I slept in my truck at a Wawa parking lot off Route 202 because I didn't know where else to go. I just remember staring at the ceiling through my windshield, numb, waiting for the sun to come up so I could pretend it was a normal day. The next morning, I drove to my brother's place in Thorndale. Told him everything. He offered his couch, no questions asked. I cried for the first time in years that night. Not because she cheated, because I realized she hadn't loved me for a long time, and I'd been too stupid to notice. About a week after I left, Caroline served me divorce papers. No warning, no conversation. Just a manila envelope sitting on my brother's porch, like it was a pizza delivery. Filed irreconcilable differences. Real poetic. I didn't fight it. I couldn't. I was still trying to breathe through the wreckage. But what knocked the wind out of me all over again? She asked for full custody of the kids. Not joint. Not shared. Full. Said I was emotionally unstable. That the divorce was my fault. That I abandoned the family. That I had anger issues, which is rich coming from the woman who gaslit me into a coma and cheated under our own roof. I thought maybe it was some lawyer strategy. Overreach, you know? Ask for everything, then settle somewhere in the middle. But no, she meant it. And worse, she started blocking my calls to Ellie and Jonah. Said I could go through the court if I wanted to talk to them. Like I was some deadbeat dad with a record. That woman didn't just break my heart. She kidnapped it, put it in a vault, and dared me to try to open it in court. I remember sitting in that parking lot outside family court, staring at her SUV, and seeing our daughter in the back seat, pressed up against the window. She waved, real quick, like she wasn't supposed to. My stomach dropped. I waved back, trying to hold it together. Caroline didn't even look at me. At that moment, I realized something gutting. She was going to rewrite the story, make me the villain in front of my own kids. And if I didn't do something fast, they'd grow up believing it. I've always been the type to keep my head down and just get through the mess. But when your kids are on the line, when someone's rewriting you out of their lives, that survival instinct flips. I wasn't just some sad, betrayed husband anymore. I was a father with nothing to lose and everything to protect. So I started documenting every ignored message, every time she declined a call from me to the kids, every text where she hinted I was unstable. I started recording interactions. I pulled bank statements that showed she'd been funneling money to a secret account for months, long before I ever left the house. And the best part? The guy she cheated with? He was married too. I found his wife. Let's just say she wasn't thrilled when I showed her the screenshots I had, hotel receipts, social media DMs, late-night transactions that lined up with her husband's gym nights. She cried. Then she thanked me. And then she agreed to testify. Caroline had no idea I was building a case. She thought I'd just fold, that I'd accept my new role as weekend dad and quietly disappear. But when our first custody hearing came around, and my lawyer dropped that stack of documented betrayal, manipulation, and parental alienation on the judge's desk, she panicked. I watched her face crumble as her lies got read aloud in a courtroom packed with silence. The kind of silence that tells you the judge just found the part that matters. She called me controlling. The judge called her credibility into question. She said I was angry. The judge asked why her kids weren't allowed to call their father for 6 straight weeks. She said she was protecting them. The judge said she was weaponizing them. And I swear to God, in that moment, I felt the ground shift beneath us both. For the first time since she blew up our life, I wasn't the one on trial. She was. You ever see someone realize they're not in charge anymore? It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's in the eyes. That flicker of panic when they understand the spotlight has turned on them and there's no script to hide behind. I saw it in Caroline the moment the judge said the words temporary primary custody awarded to the father. She didn't cry. That would have looked human. Instead, she just sat there, arms crossed so tight her knuckles went white, her mouth clenched like she was chewing glass. All her stories, that I was unstable, dangerous, absent, they'd all crumbled under the weight of receipts and cross-examination. My lawyer didn't just go for the truth, he wielded it like a sledgehammer. Witnesses, records, even the other guy's wife took the stand. She talked about how Caroline would send videos of our kids to her husband late at night. The judge asked what kind of friendly relationship required that much secrecy. Caroline didn't have an answer. After court, I went straight to pick up Ellie and Jonah. They ran out of their grandmother's house like prisoners finally released. I will never forget the way Jonah held on to my waist like he was afraid I might vanish. Ellie wouldn't let go of my hand for 2 days. Caroline sent a text that night. You got what you wanted. Happy now? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because I finally understood. I didn't need her acknowledgement. I had my kids. I had the truth. And for the first time in a long, long time, I had peace. But this wasn't over. Because Caroline wasn't the type to lose quietly. I should have expected it. People like Caroline don't lose quietly. They don't sit in reflection or grow from their mistakes. They retaliate. And when they realize they can't hurt you directly, they aim for everything around you. First came the smear campaign. She started telling mutual friends I manipulated the court, that I had connections, and used my male privilege to steal her kids. She told people I'd turned the children against her, that I was brainwashing them. She even hinted that I might be abusive, which was as far from the truth as you could get. But when people are angry and desperate, they'll believe anything with the right amount of fake tears. Then came the CPS call. Anonymous, of course. Said the kids were left alone. That there were safety concerns in my home. A social worker showed up on a Wednesday afternoon, clipboard in hand, trying to act like she wasn't already skeptical of me. But my house was spotless. The kids were fed, dressed, and playing Legos. I sat her down, showed her the custody order, told her about the custody battle, and showed her my documentation, including the crap Caroline had been spreading online. She closed the case within a week, but it still felt like a home invasion. The worst part? Ellie asked me that night, "Daddy, are we in trouble?" I looked at her, this kid who had already seen too much, and my chest cracked open. All I could do was hold her and say, "No, baby, we're safe now." But I didn't feel safe. I felt hunted. I realized Caroline wasn't just trying to hurt me. She wanted to destroy my ability to be the stable parent. She couldn't win in court, so she tried to fight in the shadows. What she didn't know? I'd already started shining a light on everything she tried to keep hidden. It started small, a comment here, a look there, but I could feel it. The tide was turning. People she used to count on to back her up started keeping their distance. Her best friend from college unfollowed her on Instagram. Her cousin, the one who used to gush about how strong Caroline was for leaving a toxic man. Yeah, she sent me an apology message. Said she didn't know the whole story. No kidding. The biggest shift came from her own parents. They had kept mostly quiet during the whole custody battle, playing Switzerland. But then her mom showed up unannounced at my place one Saturday morning. Said she wanted to see the kids. I let her in. Of course, the kids love their grandma. But before she left, she looked at me in this almost embarrassed kind of way and said, "I'm sorry for how this has all gone. I just want what's best for Ellie and Jonah." She didn't say it, but I heard what she meant loud and clear. We know she lied. We just didn't want to admit it. Caroline hated it. The more her support system crumbled, the more erratic she got. She started texting me in all caps, demanding to know what I told her mom, accusing me of manipulating everyone like some evil mastermind. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because the truth was doing the talking now. I even found out she tried to get her job back at the boutique she used to work at. The owner turned her down. Said too many personal complications. Translation: you torched your reputation and now you're surprised there's smoke? Meanwhile, I was just parenting, packing lunches, helping with homework, trying to teach my son how to throw a proper spiral without crying when he missed. Just being there. That's what she never understood. Being present beats being impressive every time. About 3 weeks after the judge solidified temporary custody, right when the silence started to feel like peace, she called. Not a text, not an email, an actual phone call. I stared at the screen for a good 30 seconds, debating whether to pick up. Some part of me thought it might be an emergency. I mean, despite everything, this was still the mother of my kids. I answered. Her voice was soft, too soft, like she was reading from a script labeled vulnerable and regretful. She said she'd been doing a lot of thinking. Said she was in a dark place during everything. Said she missed the kids. Said she missed me. Said maybe we could talk. Not about getting back together, of course, but just talking. Like old friends. For the kids. It was all so perfectly rehearsed, I almost believed it. Almost. But then she slipped. She mentioned how hard it was living in her sister's guest room. How she couldn't afford her own place, and how she hated not having her own time with the kids. Then she dropped the real reason for the call. She wanted me to agree to joint custody out of court. Said lawyers were expensive. Said we should co-parent like adults. Said she'd be more flexible if I was. I let her finish, then told her I'd talk to my lawyer and get back to her. What I didn't say? I wasn't falling for it. She didn't call because she missed her family. She called because the walls were closing in. Because the mask had slipped. Because people were finally seeing her for who she really was, and it scared her. The old me might have met her halfway. This version, he knew better. It was a Thursday. I remember because it was the first day in weeks the kids had both made it to school on time and without tears. We were finally getting into a rhythm. Homework, bedtime stories, quiet breakfast with cartoons humming in the background. Stability, the thing I'd fought so damn hard to give them. And then she took them. The school called around 1:45 p.m., said the kids had been signed out early. I blinked. I hadn't arranged anything. Neither had anyone on my emergency contact list. I asked who picked them up. The secretary hesitated, then said, "Their mother." I stood there holding the phone like it had turned to ice in my hand. No heads up, no permission, just walked into that school and took them. I called her. No answer. I called again, then again, straight to voicemail. I drove to her sister's place. No car in the driveway. I called the police. Reported it as a custody violation. The responding officer was polite but cautious. Said since she was their biological mother, and the custody was temporary, it wasn't technically kidnapping, but they'd file a report. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the edge of my bed with their toothbrushes still sitting in the cup on the bathroom sink, their pajamas still folded on the couch. I'd gone from bedtime stories to empty silence in a matter of hours. Finally, the next day around noon, she texted. They needed a break. I'll bring them back when I think you're ready. When I'm ready. That line, that arrogance, it flipped a switch inside me. She wasn't unstable. She wasn't confused. She was calculated. And now I had more than heartbreak. I had leverage. Because the court doesn't care about who cried harder, but they do care about who violates orders. I forwarded the text to my lawyer that same afternoon. He didn't mince words. He called it willful violation of a custody order. Said we'd file an emergency motion for full custody, not temporary. Permanent. Within 72 hours, we were back in court. Caroline didn't look smug this time. She looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from realizing the game is up and you're holding a losing hand. But she still tried to spin it, claimed I was emotionally volatile, that she was just doing what felt safe for the kids, said it wasn't malicious, she just needed time. My lawyer pulled up the court order and read it aloud, word for word. He handed the judge a copy of her message. "I'll bring them back when I think you're ready." The judge stared at it for a long time. Then he asked her, "Who gave you that authority?" She didn't answer. Then he asked her, "Were you aware this was in violation of a standing court order?" She said she was confused. And that's when the judge leaned forward and said something I'll never forget, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so quiet, so precise. "You don't get to rewrite the rules just because you're losing the game." He granted sole legal and physical custody to me, effective immediately. She gets supervised visitation twice a month in a neutral setting. A court-appointed liaison would be present. She wasn't allowed to take the kids anywhere without court approval. Caroline looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. Meanwhile, I just sat there, gripping the arms of the chair, barely breathing. I wasn't smiling. This wasn't triumph. It was exhaustion, relief, but most of all, it was justice. The day the court order came down, I didn't celebrate. I drove straight to the kids' school and waited in the parking lot. When the final bell rang and I saw Jonah and Ellie walking toward me, backpacks bouncing, heads down, I felt this ache in my chest I can't explain. Like all the weight I'd carried for months was suddenly pressing in harder, not lighter. They climbed into the back seat without saying a word. We got home. I made grilled cheese, the comfort food of tired kids and tired dads. Jonah asked if we could watch cartoons. Ellie asked if we could keep the lights on all night. I said yes to both. That night, Jonah came into my room around midnight, just stood there in the doorway holding his blanket. I asked if he had a bad dream. He nodded, climbed into bed, curled into my side like he used to when he was little. Ellie didn't say much the next few days. Just watched me closely, like she was waiting for the next bad thing. Every time the doorbell rang or my phone buzzed, her shoulders tensed. These weren't tantrums or tears. This was the quiet trauma that settles in when kids learn, way too young, that the people who are supposed to love you can also leave you confused, scared, and alone. I didn't have a handbook, just instinct. I told them every night that they were safe, that this was their home, that I wasn't going anywhere. I tried not to talk about their mom, unless they asked, and when they did, I told the truth gently. No lies, no venom, just clarity. Ellie asked one night if she was allowed to still love her mom. I looked her in the eyes and said, "Of course you are." And I meant it. Because loving someone broken doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. But I also told her something else. It's okay to protect your heart, too. And I think, in that moment, she understood. You think when it's over, when the judge signs the final order, when the lawyers shake hands and everyone leaves the courtroom, that you'll feel triumphant. Like you finally climbed out of the hole someone pushed you into and planted a flag. But real winning? It's quieter than that. And lonelier, too. It's brushing your daughter's hair while she tells you about a weird dream. It's folding your son's laundry and finding a crayon in every pocket. It's sitting on the porch at night with a half-cold cup of coffee, wondering how in the hell your life got rerouted like this. Caroline didn't fight the final custody ruling. She knew. Everyone knew. She came to her supervised visits. Some went okay. Some didn't. The kids started asking questions I couldn't always answer, and some I didn't even try to. Because sometimes being a good parent means knowing when not to fill the silence. One night, Jonah asked me why she never came to his science fair. I didn't say she forgot. I didn't say she had better things to do. I just told him, sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. But those choices aren't your fault. He nodded. Didn't cry. Just nodded. Like he'd already started learning something no kid should have to. Ellie's doing better now. She's got friends again. She laughs more. But she still checks the door every time I leave the house. That's what Caroline took. Not just our marriage or trust or the years we lost, but the simple, unquestioned belief that love equals safety. It'll take time. A long time. But we're getting there. I'm not the same man I was when this started. I'm more tired, sure. More cautious. But I'm also more present than I've ever been. And that counts. Because the truth is, I didn't just fight for custody. I fought for us. And I won. Not because she lost, but because I didn't give up.